Well, I don't think I've got deep knowledge on exactly what works well in the internal politics of every other country.
Charlie Munger explains why he's buying Alibaba.
Who would have guessed that the Chinese communists would improve their big country as much as they have in the last 30 years? But they didn't. The first 20 years, they had the Cultural Revolution. It was crazy. And now they have one of the greatest success records in the history of mankind. I don't know about you, but I did not predict it.
So what is the secret to China's success?
They copied Singapore. Remember, the communist leader said, I don't care if the cat is black or white, I care whether it catches mice. And they copied a very wonderful, famous Chinese man in Singapore. And lo and behold, they found the right Chinese leadership outside of China, which amuses me. Now, he was Chinese, but look at the way it worked. In the whole history of the world, no nation that big has ever advanced that fast. And they did it by having a bunch of poor people save half their income. They did not use the wealth of the rich world to get ahead. They used the savings of poor people. I am a huge admirer of what the Chinese have accomplished. And if you ask me who is the one man who did the most for China, it was Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. They copied him.
Are you still sanguine about the future for China right now? There's a lot of concerns about slowing growth and leverage in the system.
I'm quite optimistic. They've been succeeding for a long time. Sure, they have ups and downs, and they make mistakes as well as good decisions. But if you average them out, the Chinese are getting ahead. They're not moving backward.
So how would you rate investing in China? The current political tensions, are you invested in China through the ownership of American companies that do business in China?
Well, of course I'm invested partly in American companies that do business in China, including Coca-Cola. But I'm also invested very significantly in China through the management of Li Lu, whom the Munger family backed heavily when he formed a little private equity firm to invest in China. And he has had a very successful record, and that's made me follow very closely the leading companies in China. And of course, I've had very successful experience there, and I think it's likely to continue. The Chinese story is the damnedest thing that ever happened to a big country in terms of economics. No other big country ever got ahead this fast for that long.
Does that say that sort of the political matters so much?
Yeah, it does. That's a very interesting observation. What that shows is exactly right. Who would have guessed that a bunch of communist Chinese run by one party would have the best economic record the world has ever seen? Of course it's extreme. And I think it proves that, we Americans would like to think that our free expression and allowing all kinds of opinion and all kinds of criticism of the government is totally essential part of the economy. And what the Chinese have proved is you can have a screamingly successful economy with a fairly controlling government. All the government has to do is create a lot of Smithian capitalism. And if you do that, having a sort of a controlling one-party government doesn't matter. That's not a fashionable thing to say, but I think it's true.
What are your current thoughts on China and whether the communist leaders will allow businesses with strong leadership to flourish in decades to come?
Well, I think that the Chinese government will allow businesses to flourish. It was one of the most remarkable things that ever happened in the history of the world when a bunch of committed communists just looked at the prosperity of places like Singapore and said, the hell with this, we're not going to stay here in poverty, we're going to copy what works. And they changed communism. They just accepted Adam Smith and added it to their communism. They said, now we have communism with Chinese characteristics, which is China with a free market with a bunch of billionaires and so forth. And they made that shift. They deserve a lot of credit. Warren and I are not quite as good at that as changing our minds in many cases. And that was a remarkable change coming from such a place. And of course, it's worked like gangbusters. It had this enormous growth in the average income of the average Chinese. They've lifted 800 million people out of poverty fast. And there was never anything like it in the history of the world. So my hat is off to the Chinese. And I think they will continue to allow people to make money. They've learned it works. The Chinese, I loved what the guy said in the first place. I don't care whether the cat is black and white as long as it catches mice. That's my kind of talk.
In that list of the 20 most valuable companies, just 3 are Chinese. Now, if you're looking out 30 years, how many do you think will be Chinese? My guess is more. But I don't think they'll top the United States. But who knows? It's amazing what has been accomplished, and
really amazing.
And they found what works. I mean, there's nothing like finding something works in order to sort of reinforce ideas over time, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you for watching video. Please like and subscribe Grow Up YouTube channel and follow us on social media.